Hi there, happy hump day, and welcome to Wednesday. Distractions. Distractions can be harmless. They can also be harmful. Often what we'll see, and a great example of this, is with children. A kid falls over and they start to cry because they're wanting the person around them, the parent or the adult or whomever is with them, to respond to them. Often what you'll see is the adult will distract them with a toy or something that makes them laugh and feel happy. And so the child feels a bit of joy, feels happy, moves on. So in that context, the distraction is a good thing because it takes them away from focusing on something that has made them feel a bit uncomfortable or hurt. But of course, distractions, they're all around us as adults as well. And sometimes those distractions can be deliberate. And deliberate in a way that they're designed to divert your attention off the things that you should be focusing on. If there's something that someone doesn't want you to see or to hear, they'll try and divert your attention onto something else. It's that classic case of nothing to see here. And when someone's doing that, there's usually something that you really do want to see. Politicians do this all the time. If they don't want you to see something, if they don't want you to dig into something, they'll make an announcement at a certain time, or they'll make some outlandish, outrageous comment, or they'll release the details and the information at a time when they're thinking that you're not going to really notice. All of these actions are designed to shield them from scrutiny, but also to shield you from knowing or focusing on what's really going on. One of my favorite political TV dramas is The West Wing. It's one of those shows that I can watch again and again and again. And in the show, the president's press secretary has an expression where they talk about taking out the trash. Now, in that context, taking out the trash is the time of day, which is usually late on a Friday, where they will release information and news that they really don't want to get a lot of scrutiny on. And they're doing it at the end of the week because they're thinking that the media is going to pay less attention to it. Now, of course, in today's 24-hour news cycle, that's less likely to happen. But the thing to challenge yourself on is, do you see that happening in your organization? And even worse, are you doing it yourself? Because as a leader, there can be times when you don't want details shared with people. You might be working for someone where you don't want them to be aware of what's really going on. You don't want that specific piece of information filtering its way up through the hierarchy. So what you might do is you try and distract. And those distractions can come in a number of different forms. It might be blockages that you're using to deliberately prevent information moving up the organizational hierarchy or flowing down the organizational hierarchy. You might be deliberately filtering the information and sanitizing the details so people are only hearing or seeing a little bit of what's really going on. You might write documents or briefing notes in such a way that they're so overly complicated, so incredibly detailed, that the person who's reading them really can't decipher what's going on. You might have gatekeepers around you, and those gatekeepers are intended to make sure what's really going on doesn't hit your desk. You might, as a leader, overly delegate meetings so that you're not involved when you really need to be involved. And what you're doing by over-delegating is making sure you're not getting involved in some of those crucial conversations that you should be involved with. You're having your calendar back-to-back, chockers full of meetings. So you're never having the time to really digest what's happening, to listen, to discern, really reflect on what matters and where you should be prioritizing your attention. And lastly, you're the master of good news. You are very good at ignoring all the stuff that doesn't look quite good or isn't going to paint you in that perfect light. So you only share what's good. But in reality, the people around you really want to know what's going on. And you're not telling your team what's going on, and perhaps they're not telling you what's going on. Now, that's just a list, a few suggestions from my end. I have no doubt you could add to that list. So what do? How do you stop getting distracted? How do you make sure people aren't deliberately distracting you so that you don't know what's going on? So it starts with getting curious, asking questions, making sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who are going to challenge you, share different perspectives and ideas with you. It's deliberately seeking out those alternate sources of information. It's making sure there are diverse people around the table with you when you're debating and making decisions. It's being clear on the information flows and those information and distribution channels that operate within your organization. It's also sitting back and really challenging yourself, asking this question. Are there times when you're shielding yourself or stopping people around you from knowing what they really need to know? And if so, what are the implications from doing this? And therefore, what are the steps you need to take to shift your behavior? Author George Orwell once said, "If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they don't want to hear." We all need to hear the messages that we don't want to hear, those messages that can challenge our sense of self, challenge how we think we're seen. But when you don't heed and hear those messages, you just don't progress the way you want to progress. It can be hard to be the messenger, and it can be hard to hear the message that people are sending you. But if you're filling your life with distractions, you're not going to play a role in either of those situations. Lots to think about. I hope you take some time to figure out those distractions and the ones that are harmful, the ones that are harmless, and then work out what you're going to do with it. Take care. I'll see you next week.